Hey, how's it going? Let's see here. If this is, I'm on. I'm on. Can you guys hear me? Let me know in the chat. Just give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. We're at Studio B at this point. I've had to go into the other room with a whole other setup to get this to work. But I see myself, so it must be working. Okay. So let's get this all looking a tiny bit better while I'm waiting for everybody. Just a little bit better. David says yes. Oh, we got some ones. Okay, great. Great. Everything's working from this room. I am very happy about that. This time, it was a wireless problem. Remember last week how everything was, it would drop out for a minute and then come back. So I updated the drivers for that wireless, and now it's just not wanting to do anything at all. So Josh says, hey, you're rolling in. Okay, so let's take a look and see what we got here. We've got Chris and Evan and Kevin. David's here. Master of None. Hey, good to see you, man. Evan's, let's see. Brennan. Good to see you, Brennan. David's, oh, we said David already. Josh. That's right. There's Josh. And Dean is here. Hey, Dean. No, you're not late after all. It's just what I've been dealing with here. So Evan says I had to reload the video. Now I can see and hear you. That's great. And Josh has got some coffee with some cocoa. Oh, okay. I think I read in the chat back there a little bit. Yeah. So new weekend. Hopefully this isn't a precursor to the rest of the week. Hopefully everything goes a little bit smoother than this did for me. But hey, it's 4:23. It only took me 23 minutes to try that computer 15 times. So what we're going to do is we're going to get ready for the new week. I guess I'm playing acoustic because I'm in here. I wanted to listen to some of the submissions. If anybody here wouldn't mind me playing those. But I don't know on this computer. I don't know if it's set up or not. But I want to thank everybody for submitting their lick challenge, lick building challenge. I thought it went pretty well. The podcast went really well too, and did pretty good. Let's see here. Mark's here. Hey, Mark, good to see you. And did I miss anybody else? Nope, I think I got everybody. So if you guys have any questions or anything, let me know. We're just going to do some hanging out. We're going to talk about the weekend and how we're going to progress through all of this. We're going to I have a question for you. And my question is, it's two parts. What was the most frustrating thing about guitar when you first started? And the next is, what's the most frustrating thing about guitar now? I do these kind of getting people back on the right track, doing a lot of not career beginner type. Well, I guess the career beginner thing could go into the frustrated guitar player thing. I've been thinking about doing something like that this coming week and really helping. I've got a lot of emails and people are talking about their frustrations a little bit. So if you guys would like to share what your frustrations are when you first started and how you're going now, hold on one second. What? No, you're fine. We're in Studio B issues here. Okay, so let's see here what we got. David says, seems like a big uptick on Facebook members joining. Yeah, I think because of the lick building challenge. Even if they weren't participating, I think people wanted to kind of check out, see what was going on. And let's see, Evan says, I noticed that. A lot of y'all being said in here. Some Southerners in the chat there. Okay, so most frustrating. So I'll start. Okay, so when I first started playing, gear was the most frustrating part to me. And trying to get the gear that I had to sound like what I was hearing in my favorite songs, and always struggling with gear, and always, not having the money to buy the most expensive stuff, but trying to get the stuff that I had to work. And that was 100% the most frustrating part to me when I first started. And especially when the very first guitar that I started on was an old guitar, and didn't have a truss rod, and the strings were like that far off. It was very painful. And every time we would go in to like the music store, or I have a lesson and try and use that guitar, they were like, you might need to get you one of these starter guitars over here. So gear was the biggest thing for me. And now, what's the most frustrating thing for me is finding time to play. 100%. That's what it is now. Let's see here. So David says, most frustrating thing for me is knowing where my fingers should be and not getting them right. But as you've seen, David, it just really over a short period of time, it doesn't feel like a short period of time, but since I've been seeing you, I'm seeing a lot of working your way up the steps, and getting your fingers right in the right place. You're doing all the right things. It's just going to take a little bit of time. But I know that feeling like, man, this is never going to happen. It happens. It will. It's the same thing about when your fingers were hurting when you first started playing guitar. And you just feel like, I don't want to touch that thing. Every time the tips of my fingers press these strings down, it's painful. And then in 2 weeks, it's gone. It goes away. So as long as you're doing the right things, put in the time in, it's not gonna. You're gonna see the same amount of progress. Just continue. So for David, you're at the right place. Everything that you're working on is building towards some good stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about your progress. I know on my end of it, it's easy to say that when you're the one that's struggling and doing all the work, but I've seen enough people where you're at, and I know the time that you're putting into it too. So I'm not worried about where you're at all. I think you're going to be doing just fine. Josh says, mine was how to read tabs or music in general. Had a good ear and could play most stuff. When I would look up what I didn't know in tabs, had no idea how to read them. And yeah, tab's biggest issue is the rhythm. That's the toughest thing. Is the rhythm isn't. Sometimes they do. You notice when I do a tab, I try to put the standard notation on top. Even if you're not going to look at the standard notation for your notes, you're going to get you'll get the rhythm from that. So I try to always, if I can, if there's room on whatever page that I'm doing, I try to make sure that I put the standard notation in there too, minimum for the rhythm there. But and tabs, for me with tabs, what was the issues I had with tabs? I knew that I could sit there and pick, if it's a 13 here, 12 here, 10, and you play that. Okay, those numbers, I get those numbers, but I wouldn't remember them really well. What I have to really remember the shape, the shape of those things, and it didn't really tell you why they worked or not, So, how to read tabs or music in general, had a good ear and could play most stuff. When I would look up what I didn't know in tabs, I had no idea how to read them. Yeah. Let's see here. Mark. Mark says, his early frustrations from not knowing where to start, being overwhelmed, and thinking it was impossible. The not knowing where to start thing is getting worse and worse and worse. When I started, I was 12 when I started, which was a long time ago. And basically, there wasn't a whole lot of resources for people to learn on their own. So you would either be asking your friends that you knew play guitar some questions, or you were going to get, go and have a couple lessons. And so did both. I did both avenues. So I kind of tried to learn on my own for a while, and all the tabs, you think tabs are wrong today. Even the ones you bought when I was first starting were incorrect, and you could hear it right away. And you're like, no matter how I play this, it's not going to come out right. So I took some lessons. I had a couple teachers early on, beginner type teachers, and did both. Kind of got away from them for a while too, thinking, this isn't working for me. And then later on, I got into, through high school, got into more formal training. But that feeling that I'm putting a lot of time into this and a lot of mental energy into learning this thing, and I'm not really sure where I'm going, now is amplified, because you can get in your phone and type in, I want to do this, and somebody's going to show you how to do this. Problem is, it's mostly do this, play this. It's mostly if you, here's your chord, here's these, but you don't really get, well, why do these chords work the way they do, and how can I use these things to build into the next section. So there's not a lot of, even with, I've been taking some time looking at courses, and even with courses on some of the people who are putting those things out there, they're kind of just like the YouTube. It's like pick and choose. Okay, well, I want to learn some metal stuff. Well, here's a couple metal courses that are kind of disjointed from all the other courses. There's not a good flow of, okay, take me from where I am and put me in the direction of being a musician and understanding how we're doing it. And that's kind of what I'm working on. I've been thinking about that a lot, because I've been going through all of the levels of worksheets and making them clearer, making sure the path is going right, and reworking some things too. That's what I've been doing for the past 3 days. And that it's I guess because it's easy to just say, well, here's a little trick, do this, and then here. So I agree with you. It's very easy to get frustrated when you don't know what to do. How can you know where to start? You got to go and trust that somebody's going to point you in the right direction. Thinking it was impossible. Yeah, you think that for a little bit, and then you start to. I don't want to be mean, but I had a couple friends who picked the guitar up and were doing pretty good with it, and it made me. That gave me, well, if they can do it, I can do it. That's the best way to put that. If they can do that, I can do that. I would get that. And there's just I got to find that path. I got to find the path where I'm not working on a bunch of stuff where I'm wasting my time. There's that path that's going to move me forward, and it took a while to find that too. Not knowing what to do once I knew my chords. I knew I needed to know scales, but that was so open-ended as to be overwhelming. Not knowing what to do once I knew my chords. Okay, so as far as playing them over songs, I don't think that would be it, because Evan's really good with songs. I knew I needed to know scales, but that was so open-ended as to be... Yeah, so you got chords and scales and rhythm. Really, those are our three. Scales deal with vocals. Scales deal with lead guitar. Scales deal with bass lines. Scales deal with horn lines. It's basically linear. It's one note goes to the next note, goes to the next note. And chords deal with guitar, deal with piano. They're blocky. You know, we have this chord takes up this much space, and then we move to this chord and it takes this much space, where the line is flowing through for those things. And the rhythm is offsetting both of them in pleasing ways. And it's really, there's three parts. If you boil it down, there's really three parts. There's rhythm, scales, and chords. And when music that had a lot of lead guitar in it was really popular, scales that was the thing, man. You had to learn all your scales. But then as songs that didn't have any lead guitar and it didn't have any breaks, just were mostly rhythm, that kind of went out of fashion a little bit. It never really went out of fashion, but wasn't as popular as it was before. Most of the instruction was based on chords, and you don't really get the whole picture. You know, so it's even if you don't want to be a lead guitar player, even if that's not your thing, say you want to sing a melody over a song, well, scales. That's scales, you know? Say you need to write a bass line. Bass lines are scales. So how scales and chords work together, and then rhythm in the mix as well, is once you marry those two, you're back on that path moving forward. And actually that's what Evan's kind of been, as you see, as we've been going through the different levels, we kind of do one side or the other, and as we move forward, they move closer and closer and closer together. Chris says, let me go back here. When I started, probably the F or chords not sounding clean. Those are both huge. Those are big. Now he's frustrated. I didn't fully push myself earlier, maybe. Don't get so frustrated now. Yeah. The F chord is always a problem. And gosh, David was the last that really was in the thick of it with the F chord. And then chords not sounding clean, that's everybody for a certain point in time. Yeah, actually that I have that giveaway, the guide to clean sounding chords, that's helped a lot of people too. And it's just got all the stuff. It's basically super simple. I just took my process when someone sits down and they're either their chords aren't clean, or they're coming in saying I need to make my chords sound nicer. I just went, well, what do I do? I look for this, I look for this, I look for this, and then we start making the small adjustments. It's all small adjustments. By nature, when you pick the guitar up, you do this, right? You kind of grab it, and your arm's at a different angle than what the guitar is, right? And so making the adjustments with your elbow and your thumb, and it's all, the rest of this is all setting up how the fingers come down on the strings, you know, because if your fingers are off to the side, that's when you're going to get those parts. And if your fingers aren't close enough to the frets, you're going to get the buzzes and clicks. So it's really just putting all those in motion until you kind of get it, and then your ear goes, hey, that's the way these are supposed to sound, and you start to hold your arms that way just because your ear knows it sounds better when I do it that way. Let's see here. Evan says, now I'm not really frustrated. I've made peace with my limited time and feel like I'm progressing better than I ever have. Great. That's awesome. And let's see. Josh says, now it's time and a quiet place to spend the time constantly moving the practice space, it seems. Yeah, I got it. I'm yeah. Finding a place, it's tough when everybody's home. It sure is. And time to, yeah, I understand, Josh. And what do you do? What do you do when, we've got homeschooling kids. A lot of us are working at home. And when you're home, it's tougher to carve out specific times to do things because there's always something that needs to be done at home. Always. And it's a struggle for me. I've been home working, and I've been doing that for over 20 years. I'm home all the time. And at first it was really tough to find a schedule. Things come up and you have to learn to just find those times. I get up early to do some things that I know everybody else is going to be sleeping, that things I know, and you got to find stuff that's not loud enough to wake anybody up, but stuff that's you can get some things done, staying up late. Every time I try to do the staying up late thing and doing things, I'm always not really like practicing. For me, I'm not a late night practicing person. So if everybody else is doing something else or going to bed and I've got some time to practice, I don't really get as much out of it late at night as if I did the same thing. If I just went to bed then and then woke up in the morning and practiced before everybody got up, I get a lot more out of it there. I seem to get a little bit more progress that way. Brennan says, when I started, my frustration was fingers hurt, wouldn't go in the right spot, and my progress seemed really slow. Yeah. And I think, especially my group classes, having somebody say, hey, this is not going to last long, and believing it, and look at you, Brennan, you've come a long way. So Kevin says, my frustration now is realizing how much I never learned at the beginning and feeling overwhelmed what to try to learn in what order at this point. Okay, and Kevin, you're on the list of this, and this is something I wanted to bring up about moving forward. And Evan and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. And so I have a new mortgage coming up, a new house that's being built. And there's a bunch of stuff going on about that. When you get a mortgage, they look at everything. And so the best spot for me to start the academy is after we get that mortgage started. As soon as that house is done, then I can open it right up. But before then, it's probably not a smart thing to do with everything that's going on. But what I am going to be able to do is I can take on some more coaching students. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So those people who are on the list for coaching or wanting coaching, we're going to get that going pretty soon. But as far as the academy, which I was ready to do this, but there's some issues going on with the house and all that kind of stuff. That the smart thing to do would for me to open that as soon as the mortgage is there. So I've got a list. I've got, I don't know, eight or something like that, people who are waiting, and I'll be in touch with you guys soon. And as far as what to try and learn in what order at this point, that's something I can help you with. And how would you know? How would you know if you're coming at this and you're not sure? With something like guitar, where you can go in so many different avenues, and it's real easy to get focused on something that may or may not be really helping you along the way towards where you want to go. So I think that we're going to help you with that, Kevin, pretty soon. And Josh says equipment was always a problem at very first too. It was like the Frankenstein of at least electric equipment. So I played acoustic when the equipment was down. Yeah. I remember my dad had this big old stereo, receiver type thing. This isn't, I don't know, 80s, right? And I wanted to have a distorted. I had an electric guitar, but I don't think I had an amp at that point. I wanted to play with distortion so bad. So I found a way that I would plug his headphones in, and there was there was an out jack that wasn't amplified. It was amplified just enough that if I turned it up a little bit, you would hear the sound coming out the headphones would distort. It was awesome. It was like my first. I would just sit there and go and listen to the distortion. Probably tore his headphones up terribly bad too. But yeah, you get creative, man. When you don't have the cash and you don't have the instruments to do that, you got to get creative. Let's see here. David, let me go back up here. I'm really behind here. David says, it's only frustrating because you want to learn to play well so bad. But it's all fun in the end. If we all put the time in, only good things come. Yeah, and that it's a good thing that you know that, but not everybody knows that. And that's what people quit. There's more people. You probably know many more people who've quit guitar than actually continue to play guitar. Tons of people quit guitar because it looks fun, and the minute things get a little bit tough to do, the fun kind of goes out the window, and then you switch into that other mode of like I'm gonna either gonna figure this thing out or I'm not, and but it's good to keep everybody motivated in the beginning and saying that this doesn't last long. It lasts just long enough to really upset people. So let's see. Evan says the mistake is wanting to learn how to do things on the guitar instead of wanting to learn how to play the guitar. In my opinion, of course. Yeah, but I think some people don't even know the difference. That some people think that, well, if you like tablature will show me how to play this G, C, D, and I'm good to go, and then they're right in a ditch, then they don't really know the difference. Some people would want to know how to play. They don't really know where to look or if it's offered to know that. They just think everybody just learns a couple chords and everything magically happens. So Brendan says, my frustration now is setting realistic expectations of myself. It takes me a long time to realize that learning guitar is a journey and to be patient. Yeah, I think that's why recording yourself and going back and watching the old recordings is really important. You're always focused forward. You don't realize how far you've gone. I've seen Brennan getting better in 2 months, so, Brennan, you got a band, man. You're playing out. You know how many people would want to be able to do that? So you're doing great, man. And just everything. You take that. Okay, I'm a guitar player. I can play out in front of people, right? And so everything that we keep moving forward is cake now. You know, you're adding, but you're at that point, man. So I'd be proud of what you've accomplished so far. Mark says, I ended up deciding to just focus on pentatonics and playing over backing tracks over and over and over for the past 2 years. Yeah. And there's nothing in pentatonics but by repeating them and repeating them other than maybe stumbling across some new licks that you come up with. There's nothing in them that takes you up to the next point. You're in them, and there's other things around those pentatonics that there's other chords that are being played, and there's other scales that you could, even if you're playing a pentatonic, you could gradually go into there's avenues to take you up to the next thing. I know that when I was playing in like bars a lot and playing a lot of songs that people wanted to hear when they've been drinking, which is fun because it's fun watching people having a good time, you know, listening to songs that they like. But a lot of them, you're playing the same things over and over and over and over again. And at some point, you're playing them probably as good as you're going to be able to play them, you know, and you just, at some point, you're done polishing those songs. It's time to move a little bit, you know, and I've had that feeling, especially when I was playing in clubs and I'm playing those same songs over and over and over again. You know, it's not the you're getting a little bit of a challenge and you're moving forward, you're getting a little bit better. It's kind of like stuck, you know, and you're just playing the same things here and there. And then Mark says, I made a lot of progress in that area and started to expand out from there with more chords and scales and theory. Great. And then I pick a few songs I like with a good selection of chords, play those songs over and over, not just to learn the song as much as burning those chords into your brains and fingers. Great. That's good. I'm glad you're not still stuck in the jamming pentatonics over and over again. Kevin says, getting back into guitar now, I want to really learn the instrument, the theories, and the whys. When I started, I just want to learn songs and be a rock star. Yeah, they make it look easy. It's not easy. If it was easy, we all be rock stars, you know. And some of them are, man. Some of them get 3 chords, and people like the way they play those 3 chords, and that's it. But there's more to that. And Coke says theory has been so rewarding. Yeah, and when you say theory, you say guitar theory or music theory, it puts a lot of people off. It scares them. You know, it's not gonna. It's just, I just think of it as, well, why? Why am I doing this? You know? Why when I go to the C, and I can play a C minor right after it. It sounds nice, you know? On the key G. Why is that? You know, why does that sound so good? And it takes your ear someplace. Is it just accident? Is it just, a lot of people come to it by accident. See, well, what do I do to this C? What can I do to make this a little bit more interesting? Well, they tried the C minor. Hey, it sounded good. You know, when I hear that sound, I want to take that sound and make it a part of my playing so I can use it other places. That's so I think of it more as why. You know, why does this work? And yeah, music theory is going to tell us why these things work. But there's a part to music theory that turns a lot of people off. You know. Mark says, "Yep, I avoided theory forever. Now I know how important it is and how much it can help you progress." Yeah. And it's like anything too. You can go overboard on theory. You have to know why you want to do it. You have to know what you want out of it. Are you wanting to be a player and move forward and get better at being a player? Some people, they just love theory, and that's all they want to talk about is music theory, and they can get really, really in depth with it too. I think that's the part that turns a lot of people off. I like both. Let's see. Coke says ear training lately has been also super rewarding. I had I was kind of thrown into the pool with ear training. I started off in high school. I had a music theory class in high school. I've been remembering that lately, which kind of got me started and made it easier when I went on to do that in other situations. But when I was in Philadelphia, I had a class called musicianship. And this was it was honestly like throwing somebody in the pool and teaching them how to swim. The instructor would go up there and he'd hit a note on the piano and expected the people in the class to sing an interval above or below that note. And at the same time, doing odd time signature rhythms, incorporating rhythm and harmony, and being able to hear all these things at the same time. And the first couple weeks I did it, I thought, I can't do this. This is ridiculous. But that was part of it. You realize throwing somebody into a situation like that, asking them to do these things over and over and over again, knowing no one's going to be able to do it very well in the beginning, but getting that repetition in. And so by the end, I loved it, man. I sing a major sixth above this note, or it was just really, really difficult sight singing things, which was really ear training. Being able to hit those notes out of nowhere. It was great. Evan says even just basic guitar theory instead of full-on music theory helps immensely in your progress. Yeah. Oh, I'm so far behind. Lots of good chat in here today. Let's see here. If I can find my place again. Where was it? It was Evan. Okay, so Josh says, yeah, theory helped me so much. I agree completely on that one. Very rewarding. Yeah. Mark says the car is actually a good place to practice. It's a soundproof studio. As long as it's not really hot outside. Yeah, in the garage. A lot of times, the garage can be your friend if you can't find any other place. Evan says, I bring a little guitar to the desk with me so I can work on this week's practice if there's any downtime at work. That's good. And Cook says, just hit the turn signal and you got you a metronome. That's right. That's right. I hadn't thought about that. The emergency. That's great. All right. Let's see here. Got a lot more to go through. Mark says, my first amp was a stereo receiver. Maybe mine was. I guess that's what I was doing with it, right? Stereo receiver. I was going through headphones, though. It was my first low volume amplifier with distortion. Yeah, back in the 80s. Josh says, first time recording too was frustrating. Actually, just recording in general, so many factors can go wrong. I started on a reel-to-reel and then a 4-track that got stolen from my apartment at the time. Yeah, and recording is difficult. It never sounds the way you think, especially for singing or guitar playing or anything. It never sounds the way you think it sounds. It sounds different to you coming back, and it's not a positive thing for a lot of people. But if you can get past that, recording is very beneficial just for keeping a history of where you are playing guitar. Okay. Coke says it's frustrating talking to other musicians that have no interest whatsoever in music theory because it's like, well, we can't talk about music then, I guess. Yeah, there's we've talked about this before. There's that badge of honor. Well, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing it, and I'm, it's if that's the way that someone's wired and it makes them feel better, but they're learning. Even if they're listening to YouTube, and not even an instruction, but just a performance of someone watching them. I bet those people who said they've learned it all themselves, they've seen someone play a C chord and they've seen if they are doing it too. It's learning. It may not be a standard formal lesson, but you're learning from other people. These things, you don't just pick up guitar and start forming these chords out of nowhere. These chords, there are certain sounds that people like to hear. And once you know how to get those sounds with the guitar, no matter how you climb the mountain, how you get to that, whether you learn it from a YouTube video or whether you see someone playing it or whether you keep, trial and error until you get it right, you're learning, All right. Mark says, I will add that I think I did benefit greatly from repeating the pentatonics, helping to learn the fretboard and improv skills, but did hit a wall. Yeah, there's always something that you can learn. We talked about this before. The one of my teachers in school was a drummer. He was a really good drummer. He also ended up being running the school at some point. But when I had him, he was the business of music. And he was a pro drummer. He would tour the world, play with real famous people and everything like that. And when he was off the road, he would play weddings and bars and anything, coffee shops, anything. He'd play anytime he could play. And even if it was a song that was so easy for him, he said, I would work on things. I'd challenge myself. I play the song with he put one hand behind his back and play the whole song. There's always something that you can do to take a situation and improve yourself with that. So that's great, man. That's great. Josh says there's some pretty cool ear training apps for smartphones that have games and such in them. They're pretty neat. Yeah. I've seen a few of them. Keep losing my place here. Okay. Okay, I'm back. There we go. Coke says, functional ear trainer is what I've been using. Has statistics, see your progress. Super cool. That's a good one. Don't run the car in the garage. Yeah, man. Just, it's not worth it. Bad stuff. And Mark says, I practice every day in my truck at lunch break for 20 to 30 minutes. Good use of your time. That's right. And David says, want to learn music theory, but avoiding it until I get my basics down so I can even try to make sense of theory. Yeah, we're I think the biggest thing that I bring to this is seeing a progression of when to bring things in and when to repeat things. I noticed that in different levels, as I've just been going through all these levels of the worksheets, at different levels, I bring back the major scale patterns at some point, because usually I did that because from being in front of people who are sitting in front of me who've been going through these at that moment. Say they were we learned them in 203, the major scale patterns, and so by 206, at that moment they were starting to forget them or not using them a whole lot. So I started to bring those back in. So as this timeline goes, and I've been looking at it, knowing when to start putting the next level on and when to start bringing some things back in to keep you well-rounded is I think one of the things that is I'm bringing to this is that's going to be maybe a little bit different. Mark says, bar chords are the one thing holding me back. Strength is not the issue, but most notes are dead. If it's two strings side by side, I can get it so times, but a couple apart, I'm stuck. Yeah, let me go through this real quick. Strength's not the issue, but most notes are dead. If it's two strings side by side, I can get it so times, but a couple apart, I'm stuck. So bar chords deal with, there's a lot that's going on. First, it's getting your fingers to a place, to a angle where they're pressing the strings down as much as they can straight down, and that's getting your elbow in the right place. You ever notice if you wear your guitar strap like really low, all your chords start to go away? So you have that issue there, but you also have muting issues for notes that you don't want to play. Skipping strings, I think, is part of what he was talking about there, right? Where you place the notes, so something like this, which is an A chord, you can't get this third. You can't comfortably play this chord with your third finger right up to the fret. It's always back a little bit. So you have to get used to different. You're pressing a lot harder down with this second finger to make that string go clean than you are with your pinky, which is right on the fret. It's much easier to press down. Yeah, but there's so many different things, and it's more than just playing open position chords. You know, you've got small adjustments that have to be made. You're also dealing with the side of your first finger, which is your capo, and like for this one, as I go higher on the neck, my thumb I find is back farther. Well, back here, because of I'm not so squunched in here like that, I'm adjusting my thumb in each place differently. These are things I don't really think about, but just for over the years, I make these adjustments to make those notes come clean. So there's a lot going to it. It just takes a little bit of time, and you keep experimenting with finger positions and different ways of playing them, and you'll come up with the way that works for you to make these come out clean. Mark says theory is scary at first, but so eye-opening when you get there. Yeah, it's the why, man. You know, why does it work? The people who understand why, you can take these ideas and make them your own. And so you're not just trying to sound like somebody else, you can sound like yourself, which is the most important thing in my opinion. It's like taking a science class on music. It can be, but it just depends on how it's presented. I can play acoustics that others can't begin to press the strings down. They're set so high. Yeah, I can't. These are 11s. I'm sticking with light strings lately. There was a time when I wanted to do the Stevie Ray Vaughan thing. I got the big heavy strings on my Strat and press them down, and I did that for a while. I had a 3-piece where we did a lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan stuff, and we were tuned down a half step, made it easier, and my hand strength was fine, and it was building. But the thing I found, the reason why I stopped doing that is I started having a pain in my third finger right across the second digit back, right straight across there, all the time. and it was from bending those strings. It would go straight across. It would go from this side to this side, right across there. And the minute I got rid of those heavy strings, it went away. So that let me say, well, it may not have as much sustain, or sound like the bigger strings, but I don't want to be in pain. So Josh says, after you get those bar chords down, David, I will give simple theory a try. And Chris says, stick with those chords a little each day. And why Gilmore can play a C major chord in a B minor scale. I'm not sure what you mean. And why Gilmore can play a C major chord in a B minor scale. Well, the notes from in B, the ninth of the B minor scale is a C sharp, so that you're not going to get your C major chord there. So are you saying that he can play a B minor scale over a C major chord? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Coke says, Mark, there's a few things you can do. Try your pointer finger turned sideways a bit, right? So using the bony side, extend the pointer finger past the fretboard. Okay. And Josh says, try curling that first finger to its side without putting any other fingers down yet, Mark. Try to get all the strings ring clean. If that makes sense and helps it all, and then the others later. Yeah, the first thing is rolling that first finger back so it's on its side. Put your hand in position better. The one thing that I've been talking to David about lately is after you make all your adjustments and you're doing those things, each time when you go back to that chord, you have to remember to make all those adjustments. What we've been trying to do is actually form the chord ahead of time and put them all down at the same time. Helps with rhythm, helps for the problem of not being able to play right on the beat, but it also, it kind of burns, we're making these little adjustments to make everything sound right without any buzzes or dead notes or anything like that. And once you get that, you don't want to have to go through that process every time of putting the chord down the old way and then making your adjustments. You want to start burning those adjustments into your brain so you put your fingers down and they're already made for you. You already have your hand in the right position so you can just pop down on there. Okay. Think I got caught up. Everything's still going good? Yeah, everything's going good. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. Sorry it took me a while to get the stream working. I had to ditch the whole computer and come into the other room and use this one. But it was fun. This is what we're going to be dealing with this coming week is frustrations. And that question I asked about what was your first frustrations and what are they now is just pure curiosity for me. I'm just curious how everybody is doing with that. And every one of them that I'm going through and looking back here, you guys are kind of pretty much answering your own questions. You kind of know where the next step is to go. So tomorrow is guitar talk. Tomorrow morning I'm doing the coaching. I'll get that done hopefully by noon, and then tomorrow afternoon I'm going to work on that computer and see if I can get it working correctly. If not, I'll be back here in Studio B to do guitar talk tomorrow. So if anybody would like to hang out with me and talk about frustrations with guitar and getting past them, just let me know. I'd be happy to spend some time talking with you. And I'm going to go ahead and I've got some errands to run before dinner time, so I'm going to go ahead and call it right now. But thanks everybody for hanging out. Thanks Mark and Josh and Coke, Chris. Good to see you, Chris. And David and Kevin and a few more. Brennan. And let's see here. I think we had Master of None was in here earlier. Dean was here a little bit. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. And just give me if you guys want to hang out with me tomorrow during Guitar Talk, just send me an email and I'll make sure. I'll be there complaining about my wrist. Okay, awesome. Okay, thanks everybody. Josh says, reminds me of my office space storage room. Have you seen my stapler? Thanks, Lee. Good stuff. Okay, everybody, I'll see you tomorrow at 4. Bye-bye.